Hello humans! Today I wanted to talk to you guys about the worksharp Ken Onion edition. Originally released in 2013, the worksharp Ken Onion edition is basically what happens when Ken Onion decides, I like this worksharp pull-through belt-based sharpening system for hunting and stuff, but I have thoughts. Overall, it is very, very similar to the original version. You're running a trigger with a lock right here, variable speed down here on the bottom, and angle adjust. However, Ken Onion did have his own additions that he wanted to make. For one thing, the indicators right up here on this angle adjust are actually set up so that the big ones right here are 2.5 degrees, and the little notches are actually every degree. So you can get specific degrees between 15 and 30, and it goes to what I would assume to be about 13, maybe 12.5 if you wanted to stretch it past. And by the same token, if you want to go nice and big, you can go all the way up to about, it gets tricky to twist, especially when you're just holding it up like this, but it's not too bad in use. All the way up to right about 30.25 degrees. The way this tool is used is quite simple. You set whatever your ideal angle is. You take one of these belts right here, and you feed it on. So, I'm gonna angle this so you guys can see. This bottom roller right here is spring, which allows it to keep tension on the belt, but it also means you feed the other side in and the top over. You can push this right here in to get everything nice and fit. Why is this being a pain today? Make sure it's not hitting anything. I have actually run into the issue a few times where it'll get caught on different parts of the actual assembly. Maybe this will work better, putting it over here, then the inside, and then allowing this to spring up to fit over the top. Sorry, this is really weird trying to do this with 2 hands and not just leaving it on the bench. There you go. So yeah, you can push this in, which allows you to fit the belt on more easily. It also keeps tension on the belt as you use it. From there, you set your target angle. So today we're going to pretend that we're doing 17.5 degrees, kitchen knife or something along those lines. Set it up like such. I'm going to just do 90 degrees to show you guys. From there, you can push down on the trigger. You can set whatever your variable speed is for whatever your personal preference is. The book comes with the kit comes with a quick start guide, which does suggest speed ranges for each of the different belts and the different grits. Once you've sorted what particular grit you want to be using, you pull down the trigger. Actually, first you rest your blade, the very heel of your blade on the belt, then you press the trigger down and it starts to spin, so the whole belt assembly spins. And then you simply draw your blade through, paying very special attention to make sure that you are keeping a light amount of pressure on this outside guide. So your blade is sort of pushed up against it ever so slightly. These are spring powered, so if you put too much force on it, you are going to completely bongle your edge. And you could actually damage your blade that way, but it's not too bad. In terms of other features, you've got this edge rest right here, which is really useful if you are sharpening kitchen knives or things that don't have, basically non-pocket knives. So something like this as a fixed blade does a very good job because you can rest very edge of the blade and you can simply use it to guide the edge of your blade along. If you are dealing with something smaller, it becomes more difficult because it doesn't want to stay both on the actual blade and on the rest, which can be tricky, but that is why it is spring powered. You simply move it out of the way and everything goes well from there. This whole assembly can be removed with one simple Allen key. You pull this off and then this whole guide system comes off. And the whole sharpening assembly can be twisted to help you with tools, axes, shovels, whatever you need to be sharpened that doesn't require this edge setter. Simply twist it down like this, clamp it into a vise, or even just hold it if you're particularly adventurous sort. and that is adjusted simply by pushing down this little catch right there. It is designed for 115 volts up to, I believe, 1.5 amps. Yeah. All the information can be found in this nice bottom plate right here, including the date of manufacturing. In this particular case, it was manufactured June of 2022. As you can see down there on the bottom, it has its patent information, along with any other relevant information if you want to look up any specifics about the kit itself. So, I do not consider this to be a replacement for stone sharpening, especially for pocket knives. It does do a very good job. You do get a nicely refined edge. It will cut very, very efficiently. However, you get a slightly convex edge, which, depending on what you're doing, might not be the ideal profile for you. You are dealing with an electric belt-based system, and it is going to eat material as a result. So what that means is if you are dealing with a smaller pocket knife or something that is particularly precious to you, it can be very daunting and it can be quite risky. Like I said, it will happily eat through material. However, I do make knives. And one of the things about that is I have to remove a fair amount of material very quickly. Once you've dealt with a heat treat, you do lose some of the carbon in the actual outer edge of the steel to slag and just to denaturization, which isn't necessarily a huge deal, but you want as much carbon as you can get in your leading edge, which means that before you're sharpening, you're actually dealing with an edge that can be anywhere from a 32nd thick if you are a brave soul to about a 16th thick if you are not as brave and not as willing to risk it. And what that means is you have to remove a fairly large amount of material, which goes through stones very quickly. You will wear, no matter how good you are at sharpening or working stones in general, you do go through stones fairly quickly. And having a belt-based system like this, one, reduces the total amount of time that you need to spend sharpening, and two, actually increases the longevity of your equipment. These belts will wear out, but one, they are cheaper to replace than stones, and two, I've actually found that when you are dealing with removing as much material as you remove in making a knife, these are actually quite a bit better. They last quite a bit longer, they're quite a bit more durable, and the ones that you go through the most, these extra coarse 120 grits, you can actually buy these separates in packs of 5, which is so very nice. Worksharp does release their own. You can buy them sort of like unbranded ones. I wouldn't really recommend them. I haven't had very much luck. I found them to be kind of, you get like a pack of 20 and maybe 5 of them are actually worth anything. So I would just very strongly recommend not going for anything like that. The actual kit itself does come with one of these 5 belt sort of options, but you can also buy them separately. This one here was $12, and you get one 120 grit, one of these X65, which I believe was 200 grit, one of these mediums, which is, actually it says on this side here a little bit better, one of these mediums, which is about a 400 grit, and then the fine, which I believe was a 2000 grit, and the extra fine, which is 6000. Like, this thing here goes up very sharp, and it leaves a very nice edge. This one here was only up to the fine, and I don't know how well this can be seen, but you are actually getting like a proper mirror polish on it, even only up to the fine and not even the extra fine, right? Now, as a result, you do spend quite a bit of time using something like this, right? And there are a few things that you should probably consider when you're setting it up. First off, do not do this on the kitchen table. Like, just full stop, do not do this on the kitchen table. It is a terrible idea because it's a belt-based system. You are having a spitting belt, which is shaving pieces off of your blade, which means you are getting these little iron shavings. And if you've ever used an angle grinder or seen anybody use an angle grinder where it's throwing sparks like that, this can do the same thing. It just will not be as obvious that it's throwing sparks. But on the surface beneath where you're working, you are going to leave a bunch of these little steel pellets, and they're going to hit into your table and embed themselves. Which is to say, if you do need to do it on the kitchen table, if you have no other room whatsoever, get yourself like a little piece of plywood to put this on so that you don't destroy your kitchen table. Or better still, do it outside, wear a mask. Don't breathe in those little iron shavings, they're very bad for you. Set yourself up in a workspace, basically is what I'm saying. It is designed to be workbench top, and it does a very good job of that. Like I said, these little guides, this edge guide thing is so great if you are dealing with any type of kitchen knife or making anything like that. And this is actually a situation where I would consider a kitchen knife to be a good use case for this. You are going to remove more material than is strictly necessary, but unless you have nice high-end kitchen knives, which most people don't, it's not worth it to most people, and that's completely understandable. But if you're dealing with like a Global series or Victorinox kitchen knives, this right here will do a great job sharpening them up nice and quick. As Linus Tech Tips like to say, it's an 80-20 situation. 20% of the effort, 80% of the results. And quite frankly, for most kitchen knives, 80% of the results is beyond fine. So like I said, you go up, draw through, draw through, draw through, draw through on each side of your blade until you develop a burr along the entire edge. Once you can feel your burr up along the entire edge, you pass on the other side. It recommends 5. I found 2 does a good job. And then you switch one belt up and you do the exact same thing. You develop a burr fully on one side and then the other side, just back and forth. And once you're done, you take it to a strop and strop it off. You can use, it's a strop, right? You can use a proper strop. You can use a leather belly. You can use blue jeans. If you've got tough enough hands, you can literally do this and it'll break the burr off for you. That's all a strop is trying to do, is break that absolute edge of the burr off. So overall, this worksharp Ken Onion edition, I have mixed feelings about. I don't think that it does the best job of what it sets out to be, which is sort of a catch-all for pocket knives and stuff like that. It'll do a good job. Don't get me wrong. This does lead to a good edge. But it is nowhere... It's 80-10. It's 80-20, right? You are getting 80% of the results. But if you are into knives, if you are spending a lot of your time, making sure that your knife collection is nice, presentable, workable, whatever, or even if you're just the type of person who wants to have a very nice, consistent tool, stones are the way to go. You're going to get a better edge. You're going to have more control over it. Stones are superior to this system for pocket knives. If you're dealing with kitchen knives, if you need to sharpen a large quantity of knives, if you don't particularly, if you don't need that 100% finality on your edge, if it's just like, I'm sharpening up, my linoleum knife for work, this will do a phenomenal job. But where I really think this shines, and I do genuinely this, where I really think this shines is if you are knife making. If you are setting a primary edge, you can remove so much material with it. Finish it, go up to whatever grit you feel like you need to go up to with this, and then finish it on stones so you don't end up with that nice convex edge. I didn't end up doing that with this particular knife. I like having the convex edge for something like this, which is more of an outdoors camp knife. But if you are, here's a perfect demonstration, right? You do get a very slight convex edge, and there's nothing wrong with that. A convex edge does a phenomenal job, especially if you're doing more splitting tasks. But if you want to have that perfectly flat edge, go right up as far as you feel the need to with this guy right here, then take it to a stone and just bring down that convex. It will save you probably a good 2 hours. If you are going from basically a knife blank or waiting for its final bevel to finished, this will save you about 2 hours in my experience. That's all I really have to say about it. It's a great tool, but it is a tool that people need to, you do need to understand what you are getting and what it is good for in your particular life before you pick something like this up. Especially for the money, I do not think that you're going to find a better example of this. Worksharp has 3-year warranty. They do a phenomenal job. They are actually quite a good company to work with in the sense of, if you reach out to them with problems. I've never had any issues. I've had friends who've had to reach out for them for QC issues or for, losing a part, something like that. Worksharp's been quite nice, quite good with them. So all in all, I would actually say this one here is recommendable if it fits a need for you. That's all I have to say. Stay safe and have fun out there. Peace.